If you're a doubles player that wants to win more points by being more aggressive and more successful at the net with poaching, then you've clicked on exactly the right video. In this lesson, I'm going to give you 7 different ways that you can poach and be that type of net player that your opponents hate to play against and are fearful of, which is exactly what you want in doubles. Let's talk about number 1 right away, and that is to poach after a fake that your opponent doesn't respond to. In other words, as the ball goes back and forth in a 1-up, 1-back scenario, which is most common for doubles. In fact, let me know in the comments down below, is that most of your points, or are you serving and volleying and your opponent is returning and volleying? Most of the time, there's a 1-up, 1-back scenario. And so if this is you over here on this side of the court, then you really badly want to make something happen. So maybe sometimes you kind of squeeze towards the middle when your opponent's getting ready to hit, but you're not really poaching or committing, and so you just kind of like sneak over and then like sneak back. And then after doing that, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times, this person over here just really doesn't care anymore. They're not paying attention to you. They're not respecting your movement. They're not respecting your ability to attack. So they're just gonna get into a groove of just hitting cross courts. And then after 2 or 3 games of that, you just kind of feel like you're out of the match. You're not making a difference. So the next time you fake and your opponent hits cross court, if on the next shot you fake again and your opponent hits cross court, I want you to start just making a commitment to go on the 3rd one. And there's nothing magical about number 3. You can totally feel free to mix it up. But if you find yourself faking and like shuffling and like moving back and forth 10, 15 times without your opponent even once trying to hit down the alley, you're not poaching enough. And you need to balance out your fakes with more poaches. So that's the first opportunity that you should look for to use more poaches. The second poachable opportunity is one that's missed by just about all tennis players. They just don't know that this opportunity is there. And it's after your opponent tries to poach but doesn't get the racket on the ball. And when I walk through it, you're gonna probably a light bulb is gonna go off in your head. You're gonna realize what's going on here. So let's say that you're at the net, your partner just hit a shot cross court, and the opposing net player saw it, or maybe even went early and is trying to cut it off. They go across the middle of the court, put their racket out, but they don't quite get their racket on it. And you, on this side, you're probably like, oh geez, like you see them start to poach, and so you're thinking, oh man, I'm about to get creamed, I'm about to be in a defensive scenario. Maybe you're even backing up a little bit to buy yourself a little bit of time. As soon as this ball goes past their racket and you identify, oh, they're not actually gonna get it, you should be thinking hard about actually going across the net and poaching right back. The reason why is this player probably just got in the way visually and maybe even physically from the next shot from their partner back behind them. So as their partner tries to hit back cross court and avoid you, if the net player hasn't done a really good job of getting back to their own side, they just basically set up a pick, and if you go towards the middle of the court, you're probably gonna have an easy volley. There's not many baseline players who, in the middle of all this frantic activity of their partner trying to poach, they didn't get it. Baseline players like, oh geez, I gotta hit the ball. There's not many baseline players who are gonna like rifle it down the line. So this is a prime opportunity right after your opposing net player has tried to poach and trying to get back. It's a huge opportunity for you to poach. And it's counterintuitive. Most players are feeling like, man, the temperature in the room just like went way up. Like there's all this like excitement and activity. And so, oh geez, I just need to let everything reset here. Let's all calm down. Okay, now I can think about poaching. No, go ahead and poach right away. And you'll be amazed at how well this works. The next scenario you want to pay attention to is anytime your opponent who's up at the net, it might be either player, anytime either opponent is bending and having to hit the ball upwards, you should be thinking hard about just going and just go across. The reason why is twofold. Number 1, the net's in the way, and so they have to hit the ball upwards. The only way for them to hit the ball upwards and not pop it up is to have amazing touch and feel and finesse. How many doubles players do you know that have amazing touch? You probably know a couple, but it's not very many. Most players aren't very comfortable with those soft kind of touch type shots. So as soon as you see them bend down and their racket face open If you just go, even if they see you, it's going to be very difficult for them to avoid you because they have to avoid the net first. The net is their first obstacle, and then they have to try to get it around you too, which is really, really tough. So this is a perfect time for you to force their hand. And this is especially true if your partner drops the ball down towards the middle of the court, because it just gives you all kinds of opportunity to be in the way of the next shot. So watch for times that your opponents are bending down and dropping their racket, and watch especially when the two of them are kind of leaning towards the middle of the court. That should be a green light for you to squeeze towards the middle, or maybe even completely cross over and force them to try to hit a perfect shot. If this video has already been helpful in giving you some new ideas on how you can be a super effective net player, do me a favor and click the like button. It helps these lessons get seen by more tennis players that need this coaching. Thank you so much for helping us. The fourth time that you want to look to do more poaching is when a baseline player is being stretched and they're extended and uncomfortable, but specifically towards the center of the court. Anytime your opponent's momentum is headed in this direction, it's going to be very difficult for them to change the direction that the momentum is heading in of their body and also with the ball and shift it back in this direction to go behind you. So if you're at the net and you see your opponent reaching and stretching towards the center, you should be squeezing hard towards the middle and maybe even thinking about just going ahead and just selling out, breaking the center line right before they hit, because everything with the energy of their body, everything with the energy of the direction that they're moving and the direction that their racket is moving is all headed in this direction. They could hit behind you, but this shot is dramatically more difficult. So as the net player, even if you don't get your racket on the ball, if you can force your opponent to hit a shot twice as difficult as the one they wanted to hit, that's a huge win for you. Over time, that's going to work out in your favor. Over time, you're going to win lots of points. Even if you don't get the high sitter forehand volley and you smash it at the feet of your partner and do fist pump, like, sure, that's nice when that happens. But you have to think about collateral damage as well. What are we forcing our opponent into that they didn't necessarily want to have to try? So anytime your opponent is being squeezed towards the middle and you're the net player, think hard about crossing over and poaching. By the way, the reverse is also true. When your opponent is stretching and reaching out wide, the ball is going to tend to want to go in the same direction as their momentum. It's not to say that they can't hit cross courts, but it's much more difficult to hit over here when your opponent is falling in that direction. So don't make a huge poach when your opponent is falling that way. Make it when they're falling this way, towards the center. If you're looking for more guidance to upgrade your doubles game, make sure to grab free access to EssentialTennisAcademy.com, where we have tons of modules focusing on every part of the game, including doubles formation success. You'll learn how to do Australian formation, I formation, double back formation effectively. So for free access, go to EssentialTennisAcademy.com. The fifth opportunity you want to look for is a little bit counterintuitive because it's kind of the opposite of the one we talked about before, but not really. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Anytime the ball comes aggressively into the body on the inside of the court, that's a prime opportunity to poach. So just imagine if this person is right-handed, their backhand is down the tee. So let's just say your partner hits a great slice serve that curves right into the backhand side of our opponent. Just imagine for a second being in that position where the ball is coming down the tee, it's coming right into your body, right into your left hip as a right-handed player. You're trying to hit a backhand. That ball is going to come back out in the direction it came in the vast majority of the time. It's possible that if they're really quick on their feet, they could slide out of the way a little bit and then change the direction and go down the line. But it's very difficult to do when you're basically handcuffed and you're right up next to your hip. So anytime you see your opponent kind of fighting off a ball and leaning a little bit towards the sideline while the ball is coming into their body, that's a prime time to leave your spot on the court, squeeze towards the middle, or maybe even go all the way across the center line. It depends on how much of a jam your partner got on them. The higher it is, the closer it is to their body, the more they're kind of leaning, the less likely the ball is going to go in this direction. So look for that scenario, and kind of counterintuitive, because we talked about getting stretched in this direction, but when the ball also comes into their body, it's equally as powerful of a time, and that's because it's very likely the ball is going to go towards the center of the court. The sixth time you should start poaching more often if you want to be more successful is when your opponents are getting ready to hit their weakness, whatever shot that they're least comfortable with. A couple scenarios. The most obvious one would probably be a serve, maybe to a backhand, even if it's not jamming into their body or stretching them out wide where they're kind of falling in that direction. Even if it's just like a very average run-of-the-mill backhand that they're set up for and comfortable, if their backhand ground stroke is a big weakness, you should be looking to poach more frequently. What's less obvious than that one is maybe a low volley from the net player. And this checks multiple boxes, right? The ball's in the middle, player's bending low. If we're playing one of those doubles players that doesn't have great touch or great hands, that again, it's like multiple whammies here against that player. You should be looking, anticipating, and trying to move as early as possible. It might even break some other rules of doubles. This is critical. You've heard often, probably, that when the ball goes wide, you should cover the alley. Well, what if this is a left-handed player and that's their backhand, and they just struggle hitting any backhand solidly? Maybe you can relate, I can relate to that. Like, I struggle avoiding a net player when the ball comes to my backhand because my backhand is just a big weakness of mine. So this might break the rule to go towards the middle. But if this player is just set up early, easy, comfortable, but you know that they hate that shot, then it might pay dividends to squeeze towards the middle and even let them see you and let them try, to hit this spot over here, which is a low percentage shot anyway. So just some ideas, right? Anytime you identify a weakness from your opponents, whether it's the net player or the baseline player, you should be making a little checklist in your head. Oh, when this shot comes up, I'm thinking about poaching. When that shot comes up, I'm thinking about poaching. Pair together their uncomfortable shots with your most aggressive movement, and you're going to win more doubles matches. The seventh time you want to start doing more poaching is when you've signaled with your partner back behind you. So if you're the net player, start setting up signals, please. The vast majority of doubles players don't do it. You don't have to signal location. In other words, you could just set up, this means stay, this means go, and that's it. You don't have to tell your partner, oh, you got to serve down the tee or at their body or out wide. Don't even worry about that. Just set something up at the beginning of the match for stay and go. And that way, you could signal stay most of the time, but this person doesn't know that. And so just the fact that the two of you are communicating via signals is going to put some doubt in the head of your opponents. And that really, in a nutshell, is your job as the net player. Put doubt in the head of this player about where is safe and where is not. The more variety you can throw in about when you poach, the more uncertain they're going to be, the less confident they're going to be, the more mistakes they're going to make, and the more times you're going to intercept the ball and put the ball away. That's your job as the net player. And we've gone over 7 different ways to do that, but please know that none of these are automatic. It's not like, oh, you do number 3 and it always works, or do number 2 and then number 5 and you'll win all your matches. Like, it's not that simple. I'm giving you tools to put in your toolbox so that in your doubles matches you have different options and different plays that you can run to be more successful. If you appreciate that, do me a favor and click the like button. And in the first comment down below, I'm going to link to a lesson that I've done about signals to give you some more ideas on that, because it's so important if you want to play high-level doubles. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave those in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.